It's a pleasure for me to have a very esteemed panel here for us. People who've actually had the experience of working and experimenting and innovating on many of the social platforms that we discussed this morning, and who would be able to give you practical insights on how they went about this journey. I'd like to welcome Mr. Sushil Kumar Mishra, Deputy Managing Director, State Bank of India. State Bank, as we all know, is the largest bank in the country, and I think you have close to 190 million customers, if I'm not wrong.
Actually, for the public sector banks, and I would guess more or less it's true for the private sector banks also, we are more or less, sort of accustomed to thinking in certain ways. And the use of social media, it calls for firstly a change in mindset, the way we think. Because to give you an example, when the State Bank of India was created, or maybe 20-30 years back when all of us joined SBI or our banks, we were given a code of conduct. There was no mention of social media on that. Today, the bank has had to issue a new set of code of conduct for its employees as to what you can do, what you cannot do on the social media. So that is one thing which organizations need to rethink and add to their code of conduct for employees. Now, why is social media so important today? Social media today is the most powerful tool of communication, and banks and financial institutions stand to gain a lot if it is used effectively. As most young customers are technologically savvy and are used to social networking websites, the best medium to connect with them is through social networking sites. And given this trend, Indian banks are in a race to woo young tech-savvy customers by connecting with them through social networking sites. And I would go to the extent of saying that it is the new marketplace where you can acquire customers, where you can sell your products and services, where you can listen to your customers, what they're saying about your products, what they're saying about your service. Recently, we used our analytics to find out, one general thing which is said about SBI is that we are not attracting young customers. But it was surprising for us also when after we did the analytics, we found that 47% of the newly opened savings bank accounts belong to people who are in the 18 to 35 years age group. So that is something, which was very revealing, that even without making too much of an effort, we were able to attract so much of young customers. Recently, on 1st July, the bank day, the State Bank of India launched an initiative in digital banking, which we call SBI In Touch. And it is, I would say, a revolutionary engagement program to cater to the requirements of Gen Y. Now, my vertical was in charge of this initiative, and I understand in the morning sessions, some questions were asked on this. So I'd like to share with you that this exercise was completed by a public sector bank like SBI in just 90 days flat. It is a big record, I would say, right from the genesis of the idea to thinking about what to call it, to design the color scheme, to design the branch, what it looked like, to even select the kind of material which would go on the floor, what would be the color scheme in the branch, what kind of devices we would add. And believe me, I request each one of you to visit our In Touch branch at Phoenix Market City, Kurla, in the mall. And we have added some devices which are to be seen for the first time in India, and there are certain services, features which are being given for the first time in Asia. So it is something totally revolutionary. We did not benchmark ourselves against any bank in India or in the world. We benchmarked ourselves with Apple, because that is what the young people are crazy about, I would say. Even we are crazy. We call ourselves young. So today, social media is something, where when I wake up, or when a youngster wakes up, he or she, the first thing he does is he looks at his or she looks at a mobile phone to see what messages have come on the WhatsApp, or what messages are there on Facebook. And they don't say good night to their parents or anybody, but they say good night to their friends on Facebook and WhatsApp. And that's the kind of trend which is sort of catching up all over the world. When I wake up, I also do the same thing because it's convenient. You want to remain in touch. And so our brand also, we call it State Bank SBI In Touch. That is, we want to be in touch with our customers. We want to give them the kind of services, products which they want at the time when they need. So the branch timings are 10 to 10, which are the mall timings. And you've gone there on the weekend. You don't expect a bank SBI branch to be open on a Sunday, but the branch is open on a Sunday. So you walk in and you can open your account in 10 minutes flat. You don't need to do anything. If you have your Aadhaar number, you just give your biometric and your account gets opened. For the first time in India, we have given a instant debit card printing. No bank in India does it. Some banks in Asia do it, but no bank in Asia gives you an EMV chip card, debit card. And it's instant. You can take the photograph standing in front of the camera and put that onto the debit card, and you get it in 15 minutes flat. So there's so many other devices which are there. You can talk to a remote expert and so on and so forth. So whatever the customer, the young customer, tech savvy customer needs or wants, that we have put in that branch. State Bank of India also is the first bank, I would say, to integrate the entire internet banking platform or interface with Facebook. So if you are chatting with your friends on Facebook, you can go on to your SBI internet banking site, use your credentials and do your transaction and come back to your Facebook. So it's that kind of convenience we are trying to provide to our customers. We have launched the Facebook very recently in November 2013. Our YouTube presence was started on January 2014 and Twitter on April 2014. So I think that diagram or table was as on 31st March. So you missed that out.
Right.
So we are there on 3 and we are going to add LinkedIn and Google very shortly. And going forward we'll be there on whatever is relevant in the social media space. So when we wanted to go on Facebook and other social media, as you know, all banks are board driven. So when we went to the board with our presentation, they said, hold on, get it examined by the law department. You do some more research on it and then come back. So because it's an open medium, and as we saw in the earlier session, there can be negative sentiments, and you need to know how to handle those negative sentiments because it can have a snowballing effect. So the strategy of SBI was to sort of engage with our customers through the social media, and also so now we are using Twitter to listen to our customers, Facebook to provide value-added services, offers besides customer engagement, and YouTube channel we use for videos, etc. on our products and services, as well as messages from our top management. And we are using analytics in a very big way. So we are doing social media listening. That itself is an art. We cannot develop those skills very easily. So you need to first of all learn, and then also maybe outsource some of it, get the social media tools. We internally, what we have done is to sort of have employee engagement, created something like a Facebook for our employees. So we have something which is called SBI Aspirations, and there the chairman gives a message on that, and she requests the employees to sort of blog on it and give their suggestions, their ideas. As far as the book of instructions go in the banks, nobody can write to the chairman, right? So it has to go through proper channel. But here, she is putting her message there, and you are commenting on it directly, and she is seeing it, she is commenting on it. So all the hierarchical levels, they just vanish overnight. So So that is the new norm of organization structure which is coming in. You can reach directly to the top hierarchy of the organization. So the insights which we get, from this listening, social media listening, it helps us in sort of improving our products and services, and we're doing a lot of these things these days. And the way forward for us, is this acronym is very popular these days, SMAC: social media, mobile, analytics, and cloud computing. So all that in this SMAC stack, we have to sort of use that to reach the next level of excellence using the convergence. And as was been mentioned earlier, we have to analyze the big data. So that is what we are doing. We have SBI has got a very robust this data warehouse. In fact, when IBM provided it to us, we ran out of capacity in no time. We have got 70 terabytes of data sitting there. So it is in fact one of the largest platforms in the world. So we are using this data, to analyze, and also, provide a lot of offers. That's our intention, and very shortly, to provide offers to our customers. If they are in a shopping mall and they swipe their card, we can give them an offer saying that, okay, you like to go to Domino's. There's a Domino, and if you go there, we'll give you a 10% discount or 20% discount. Or this shop is there, you like to shop in Lifestyle, so here is an offer from Lifestyle. So all that kind of thing, that real-time analytics that can be, sort of enabled. So basically, we need to, as far as the social media is concerned, plan, listen, engage, and optimize. And it's a very exciting area with huge opportunities. And the sooner we as banks come onto this platform, the better it will be for us, not only as a bank, but also for our customers, for our people who are banking with us, because we can deliver services over the net, which is much more faster, which is all pervasive. Unlike say 20,000 branches of the State Bank Group, they are limited to certain geographies, whereas here the net is all over the world, and any product and services which you have, you can reach out to them and give it to them. So the Facebook and Twitter and YouTube of SBI have proved to be very interesting to our customers. Of course, it is a challenge. Content management is a challenge. It has to be done on a real-time basis, as our friend was saying, that you cannot give the same type of a standard comment for everything. The customers will get bored and will see through it. So you have to have real people sitting there and analyzing what the comments are coming, and you have to respond to them quickly. Earlier, when we wanted to release something in the newspapers, it would go right up to the chairman, and the I's and T's would be crossed and the dots would be put, and 2, 3, 5 iterations used to be there. But here, the person is authorized, immediately he sort of puts it onto the net and it goes viral. So that's the big challenge these days, to have the right skill sets for people who would be sitting in the social media hub of the bank.
I think it's a really exciting time for the whole industry, and I think whilst there are many barriers indeed, but the cold hard truth is I think banks don't have a choice. We have to get into this space. I guess it's a question of how and how well we do it. We actually invest a lot of money and time in actually developing our digital capabilities. So just earlier this year, we announced that we'll be investing 200 million Singapore dollars in actually progressing our digital banking capabilities. I think Mr. Mishra from SBI talked about IBM and IBM's capabilities. Early on this year, we actually are the only bank in Asia to have signed up with IBM with their Watson supercomputer. So we're actually also using Watson's sort of cognitive capabilities to better our abilities to kind of provide wealth management solutions. And in terms of our website, we are the 10th most popular site in Singapore, the top being obviously the Googles and the Facebooks. And we're quite proud to say that the closest competitor that we have, they are ranked actually 70 or 80 in terms of popularity. So we're really active in this space, and we look at things in totality. It's just not social media, but it's internet banking, more and more so mobile banking, as you know, you see how the trends are, and I'll share with you some numbers later on. So what have we done? Actually, quite a number of years ago, we knew that the whole internet, at that time it was a revolution. Right now it's come, it's here, it's going faster than ever. And we told ourselves that we have to be out there in that space, because if we're not there, we're going to be fast going to become obsolete. So as early as 2010, we actually experimented with a branch for young people. And rather than say we designed the branch, we went out there on Facebook and had a competition. And effectively, we got youngsters to come and actually, the millennials, if you will, come and design the branch. We have 2 such branches in Singapore now, and they are all actually very almost paperless. You come in and you fill up forms on, you know, on tablets and all that. There were 2 young university students that actually won the competition, and they subsequently, when they graduated, they joined us for a year to help us to actually build the branch. So it wasn't just a competition on paper, but we actually created the branch. Subsequently, we talked about a lot of conversation also when I came in about social listening, and indeed that's something that's really important. And I think more and more so before be it good news and especially bad news hits the papers, you will hear the rumblings online, and you have to be there and you have to monitor it very closely. So later on I'll tell you a case study a little bit more as to how we service our customers on Twitter and also do social listening very actively. We also are proud to say that, you know, we actually challenged Facebook also as to how we could actually better leverage Facebook as a channel to kind of do innovative marketing programs. So back in 2011, we were the first company in Asia to launch Facebook Places and Deals. So in other words, you know, you go to a place, you take a picture, you say, I'm over here, and then here's a kind of a deal you get when you're in this particular place. So Facebook found that really innovative. 2011, we actually go by a global Facebook structure, and again, we were one of the first banks to do that. In China, as you know, they can't do Facebook over there, so China Weibo is very big, and we won some awards for what we did in Weibo. And in terms of community engagement, we have a large event in Singapore called the DBS Marina Regatta. So we use this opportunity to engage the community in cool and different ways. So we had team competitions on Instagram. This year we had selfies for good. It's very popular these days. Now you take a picture of yourself, but we said take a picture of yourself, send it in to us, and we'll basically you know, do something for the community. And last but not least, just last month, we actually had a conference, and we had a special Twitter handle set up for the conference, and we got 20,000 people actually following us on this handle. So it's something, again, just wanted to kind of give you a sense that, you know, you just have to be in that space, try it out. Some things work better than other things, but the learnings are invaluable as we move forward. So perhaps if I could just go through 3 case studies. The first one, reputation management and social listening. In Singapore, because of how we stand in Singapore, any sort of service disruption gets sort of an extraordinary amount of attention. We have the largest ATM network in Singapore, and about 2.5 years ago, some of our ATMs were skimmed. And coming from Singapore, which is known for its safety, it rattled the industry quite a fair bit. And so immediately when that happened, we measure our brand sentiments, and it plunged dramatically. But what we did in there was we went in, we listened to all people, what people were tweeting about, what the rumblings were like in the various social media channels, and we went in there to proactively address every single negative sentiment and comment. As a result, within 48 hours, we actually reversed the trend and our brand sentiments went back to neutral again. Another case study is social media. In the poll that Smita shared just now, I think the majority of you talked about using social media for brand management. And I think that's certainly one area that is very critical that you can use social media for. However, I think you can also use social media, and we've been very encouraged by the response that we've had by this social media promotion that was developed by our colleagues in Hong Kong. It's effectively group buying. You've heard of Groupons and all that, where you can buy things in bulk and therefore buy things cheaper. In this case, we've launched a fixed deposit promotion. It was called You Go, I Go. So if a group of people come together and pool their deposits, you get a better FD rate. So it was a fast way for us to raise deposits, and it became a very innovative program for us that we subsequently rolled out in many of our other countries too. Another case study that I wanted to share with you is the use of gamification. Just because we're a bank, it does not necessarily mean that we can't play games, albeit in a proper way. And so, you know, gamification, this is whereby we encourage people to come in, predict, you know, what the FX rates would be like, what the strongest currencies would be like of the day, because this is in Taiwan, whereby for DBS in Taiwan, we have positioned ourselves to be a leader in the foreign exchange space. So we devised a game that would entail the use of, if you will, getting people to kind of, in a sort of a fun way, predict FX rates. There is a promotion element in there with lucky draws and all that. However, we actually hit the targets for this campaign 2 weeks before the promotion was over. So again, people are responding, and I think we have to, in some way, somewhat demystify banking and make it easy and interesting, especially when you're in a social media space. We actually look at social media, as I mentioned earlier on, in a very holistic manner. And we pride ourselves in banking the Asian way, and we talk about 5 Asian banking pillars. Asian insights we're really big on. We believe that we are born and bred in Singapore, and we know Asia well. And so social media is a wonderful place to garner insights. I think big data is all the rage these days. But the question is, how do we use big data? And we see these insights not just as sheer information, but as notes whereby we can build and develop more content to engage basically our customers and our prospective customers. Conversations, another buzzword these days is, you know, you don't just talk one way from the corporation to, you know, your target audience. You have meaningful conversations with them. And I think it's important that you're able to also have these conversations on the mobile phone. It's not just about the computer, the laptop, or the tablet these days. Everything is on the mobile, and the more you can make things easier on the mobile phone, the more successful you'll be. Yeah. Service, I think we've demonstrated the fact that we have to service our customers proactively when you listen to things online. So what we actually do in Singapore, sometimes when we see customers saying that, oh, we went to XYZ ATM and the ATM was out of cash, immediately we would get in there and say, we're really sorry, we will look into the matter right away, and here are the nearest ATMs that you can go to. So it's that level of proactivity that we go into. Listening, it's not just ourselves listening to what our customers say, but I think more and more these days, people listen to what their peers say. People listen to what sort of other industry experts say. So we also engage influencers in the community, because I think the brand no longer belongs to the corporation. The brand right now is in the hands of everybody who interacts with the brand, and what they say about it means a lot. So I think having influencers to kind of talk about positive things about your brand, I think is very important. Last but not least, I think being device agnostic is really critical. I think if you're just looking at just the tablet, as I mentioned earlier on, or the PC, that's not good enough. And if you look at some stats, which I'll share with you later, which I'm sure you're all probably familiar with, the growth rate in sort of smartphones and smartphone users is just phenomenal in India. In terms of number of fans and all that, sometimes, you know, whilst we sort of look at these numbers and, you know, are these numbers good? Are they high or are they low? Arguably, the numbers can always be higher and could always be better. But I think that might not be, it's not just quantity that matters. I think it's the quality of engagement that matters. So we actually put even more emphasis on engagement rates, likes, comments, versus just fans for fans' sake. Because the truth of the matter is, you actually can, depending on how much you invest in the medium, actually buy fans or garner fans. But I think engagement is earned, and I think that's probably a lot more powerful. Again, you know, we look to, you know, ourselves as, you know, a bank of the future. We talk about, you know, leading the way in the future of banking. So, you know, as I close, I think, you know, it's really a whole new world out there. It's a really somewhat almost scary world, especially, you know, if you're, you know, in communications, you're in marketing, it's a complete paradigm shift. And if you look at the numbers for India, because you know, I come from Singapore, 5 million people, I'm not used to so many zeros, yeah, yeah, of course, you know, with the, yeah, and so these numbers are quite mind-boggling. Just look at it, at your growth rates, you know, your mobile phone growth rates, and talking about the younger generation, my children do not read the newspapers, but somehow or other they get to know the news sometimes faster than I do. Why? Because, you know, they just, like, you know, are information junkies that they soak it all up, you know, online. And you look, 3 out of 4 Indians are under 35. I guess present company excluded, so sorry. Yeah, yeah. But these are our customers of the future, and I think we have to go and get them while they're young, because if we don't get them now, by the time they actually grow up, they would have formed other banking relationships, and the rise of non-bank competitors, I think, is something that we also have to be mindful of. In China, if you look at it, you know, with Alipay, the whole payment space, it's being dominated by non-bank players, and it's sometimes made a little bit difficult because they are not regulated like a regular bank, and so sometimes they have a lot more flexibility to do things, but, you know, we're competing for the same customers. Blogging, you know, look at the growth rate, you know, 36 million bloggers, that's a lot of chatter and banter out there, and I think it's important that, again, we are able to kind of engage, you know, the communities, such that, you know, we are able to really listen to them, engage them, and also influence, you know, the comments that are being made. I think some of the other stats are self-explanatory, but I just wanted to say that, therefore, social media is just not about technology. I think technology enables us to use social media, but it's more actually about people centricity. The generation out there are very me-centered. It's about me, it's about my life, what I want, you know, it's not about you, the bank. So I think the more we think about as a bank, and the less, I think, effective will be in the social media space. I think in order for us to be successful here, we have to think as customers, looking into the bank, as customers and what's important to their lives. Sometimes, you know, relationships are built, you know, through many frequent interactions. So I think brand saliency is really important. You know, you can't just sort of be there during sort of those episodic times, but, you know, how do you get into the lifestyle and the lives of your customers such that you almost become kind of indispensable? Yeah. Information, big data, as I said again, I was reading an article, it says, what's next after big data? And the answer was bigger data, you know, and again, I think that's so true. And the other scary thing is, as much as we say we're a good bank, you know, as much as I tell my children that I'm a good parent, they won't listen to it unless their peers tell them so. You know, so the consumer these days actually relies a lot on peer reviews, you know, on what communities say and all that. I think buying decisions and buying behaviors are also really different. For those of you who travel abroad, I'm sure that when you want to check something out, a hotel or a place to go to, you might go to TripAdvisor and see what all the reviews are like. No matter how good that hotel advertising might be like, you would still go and check reviews. And that's the way the world is these days. Last but not least, I think experience is the buzzword. You know, how do you kind of create a engaging and lasting experience, you know, endearing experience? And so as much as, you know, the fancy advertising of dreams and fancy TV commercials and all that, that still has a place, I must say. We haven't gone all digital yet. We're in this transition mode whereby both the offline world and the online world actually coexist. But, you know, it's important that we make things simple for our customers. And the more simple we can make it, and the more we can actually make banking part and parcel of their lives, I think the more successful we'll be.
Social media is not about IT. Trust me, it's not about marketing either. Because IT people and marketing people, we will come and tell management and boards that we have to do this new sexy thing. We have to now do Wine and Pinterest and Cloud and whatnot, because it looks good on our resume. The only reason we must do any of these things, the only test we must pass, all these things must pass, is if it's business relevant and or customer relevant. And for that reason, I would say that when people of my ilk come and petition anybody in your company saying that we must do the next glossy thing, hold back. Because I think we will waste a lot of money. You asked a question earlier in the day about, I have done Orkut and now I have to do Facebook, and tomorrow, God knows, I have to do WhatsApp, and I will keep burning money, and that's the truth, because these things will keep changing. So we don't have a choice about spending some of those monies, I would submit. But I think we are learning very quickly also what not to do, and we must, I believe, if I'm a responsible marketeer, I must rein in and also be careful about the things that I deliberately choose not to do, in spite of the fact that it's fashionable. Facebook likes are fashionable or were fashionable. I believe they continue to be fashionable because, unfortunately, a number of my peers are reporting the numbers in their annual reports, creating trouble for me at the board. But I am deeply convinced that a shallow Facebook like from an 18-year-old who has no money, who has no interest in my bank, is of very little use to me. Just because he clicked on an ad and I paid Facebook, it's not going to amount to much eventually. So we have quickly, of course we made the same mistakes everyone did, but we have quickly pulled back and started to do other things. So some of the learnings, very briefly and very quickly, some of the learnings we've had is chase your own customers on Facebook rather than chase strangers on Facebook. And why is that? Because your customers already like you. They like you with their wallets. They're staying in bed with you, and you don't even know, and they don't even know that you're on Facebook. So maybe the first thing to do on social media is to go hunt for your people who are already in your house and try to get deeper engagements with them. Many people have alluded to this business of listening first and so on, and I am fully on board with that. Because your customers are already talking about you, like other people have said earlier, they're already talking about you. So you can't just barge in there and shove your visiting card in their faces. What you have to do is stand around, listen to what they're saying for a little bit, look for something they're saying where you have something relevant, of value, moving the conversation forward, which is when you present your visiting card and say, hey, guess what, I can say something about that may be of interest to you, so now please include me. At the same time, if you barged in there only to do that, only to introduce yourself, only to say, hey, guess what, I have a great product for the problem you're talking about, you're going to be flamed. So be careful about that. So my learning again has been that if I just extrapolate my personal behavior onto my brand social behavior, there's a hell of a lot that I'm able to take and apply. Karen has demonstrated brilliantly how in small place like Singapore, she's made a brand fun and sexy and engaging and alive, and banks can do this, and I promise you. So two or three quick examples. We did a thing called It's Great to Be 25, year 2010. We became a 25-year-old bank. When a bank achieves a milestone, the thing that most people expect is to see that floret on their chests and some ribbons and so on, and saying proud to be XYZ. We deliberately chose, because by that time it was clear that this journey, this movement of wave of social media and complete transparency and authenticity was already beginning. So what we deliberately chose to do was to abdicate the conversation. So we just went and polled customers at our branches and ATMs and asked them what being 25, whether it was you were 25, you're going to be 25, you're 25 right now, what does 25 mean to you? And the best of those responses became our campaign. And we just put it up on TV and on YouTube and all of that. All it did was people saying, when I was 25, blah, blah, blah. Or when I will be 25, I will do blah, blah, blah. That's all we did. The remarkable thing is, after the campaign, in research, our trust scores grew by 5 full percentage points, which any marketer here will tell you is a tough job to do. The remarkable thing is, when we polled customers, they they said things about Kotak's 25-year journey and accomplishments which we had not put into the campaign at all. So people were reading some things into the campaign that we had not even put in there, and that's the magic of the way human beings consume anything. So there's a lot in between. In our brains, we are able to fill in the gaps for anything so long as the beginning and the end of this thing makes sense. So that filling in the gap, we have to trust our stakeholders, which is our consumers, our investors, all of that. We have to trust them. Therefore, there's no need to spell everything out. And that again is an interesting game that you can play on social media. It sounds like I have it all figured out. I promise you we don't. I'll give you an example where we've screwed up, and that will reassure you that I am on the same side as everybody here who's afraid. In the month of April sometime, I was hanging around on Facebook like I do most of the time. I'm privileged in Kotak, I have access, most people don't. My department does. So I saw someone who had come onto our page and said that I'd like to open an account, please tell me what to do. Wonderful, someone stepping forward and saying, I want an account. Happens very rarely for a small brand like ours. We have to fight with giants like SBI and Axis. I was really grateful, but I was mindful of my position, so I said I will not respond, and I just sent it off to the team that is supposed to respond to it on social media. I said, here's a prospect customer, take care of it. 30 minutes later, I see a response to that which says, thank you for your interest in our services. Please visit, and some URL to apply for an account. Exactly like I think Vikas said earlier, this guy was already on the internet. If he wanted to visit my web page or the application form URL or whatever, I'm sure he would have figured it out. He wanted to converse on Facebook. What should I have done? Which is what I did next, and I showed my colleagues that. I said, first I have to go find out where he's from. I discovered from his Facebook profile, it was very clear he was from Dehradun. The next thing I had to do was I had to go find out from my website whether we had a branch in Dehradun. I didn't know that honestly, but that's okay, I think. I went and checked if I have a branch. Does the branch have a branch manager's name, email ID, phone number, branch phone number on the internet? Yes, it does. Super. So what that guy should have done, which is what I then did, was I took all this information and I went back and I posted it as a reply to him saying, these are the contact details for our branch in Dehradun, which is here. I hope your house is somewhere nearby. You can call them, but if you prefer, the branch manager will call you anyway in the next few minutes. I hope it's all right. Now this, intuitively, a human being would have done. But because we are somehow in office, there is something that we are switching off, which is what's changing, which is what is wrong. And frequently, so one of the exercises I try to do is I try to get people to change their clothing. I tell them to come in t-shirts and jeans or shorts for this function, and I see that some changes will happen because of that. So I spoke about stopping to chase Facebook numbers, but I do want to record one milestone, which is on Twitter, we became the first bank in India to reach 100,000 followers, but we did that organically. And we did that how? If I look back, what worked about it was we made Twitter not a marketing vehicle, we made it a customer service vehicle. We made sure to make people aware that we were available on Twitter for customer service. So every now and then we discovered that people were tweeting directly their problems, not going through the channels, going all the way to nodal officer and then tweeting or whatever it was. They were coming straight to Twitter, which is perfectly all right. You know, in 2010 we did a survey among our consumers to understand what channel they will use to complain. At that time, they said exactly what we all expect, that I will go to the branch, I will go to the customer service call center, I will write to the nodal officer, the RBI ombudsman, and only then will I go to social media and say they never listen to me. That's changed today. Nobody has the patience, A. B, they've smartened up. They know that when they put it up on social media, we are a hell of a lot more sensitive than if it's just an email to me or just a call to me. They know that we are going to jump through a million hoops, not only because the RBI is watching, but my chairman is watching and the whole damn world is watching. So how I conduct myself on social media has become really important today, and they know that. So promise you, exactly like others have said, that there is no point in shutting down your walls or shutting down your access on social media or saying that we don't provide contact and service on social media. If you don't, they will be saying it somewhere else. So we have no choice but to go and engage over there. I think, okay, Jiffy, she wanted me to say something about Jiffy. So Jiffy is a social banking product. That doesn't mean that we allow you to your question earlier about security. So far, it doesn't mean we allow you to transact or move money via Facebook or Twitter or whatever. However, what it does is you open your account through Facebook itself. After you opened your account, so you just apply via your Facebook handle. So you're on Facebook, you click apply now, and boom, a bunch of the information that Facebook already has about you I take, and then we go through and we take you through a process to finish the application process online, and we open your account. After that, we reward you for your social behavior, which we are interested in. So if you tell your friends about us, we'll give you points. If you refer your friends and say you should open an account, we'll give you more points. When your friends open accounts, we'll give you even more points. And all these points you can redeem for stuff online only. So we have done deals with a bunch of online vendors. So you'll get in some cases discounts, in some cases goodies, and so on. We'll also reward your transaction behavior that we are interested in. Like every other bank, we're interested in asking you to pay your utility bills through us and so on and so forth. So whenever you do behaviors that we're interested in, we'll reward you for that as well. And all those rewards are in the form of these discounts or cash or X or Y. And all of that is what? What the insight? The insight was we opened a process to open accounts online about 4 years ago. We discovered that more than half the leads we were getting, as soon as we said minimum balance requirement, they were going away. The other thing we discovered was that people who were applying, about a third of them were coming from cities where I didn't have branches. So I didn't have the ability to service them at all. I had to say, I'm sorry. And when we shut that down and we just put a list of the cities where we have branches, even then, we saw that people were going around it. So if I didn't have a branch in, say, Kurnool, but I had a branch in Hyderabad, the guy from Kurnool is selecting Hyderabad saying, it's the closest city, I still want an account. So clearly there is interest in banking online only in this country already, and that is manifest in the data point that again Vikas shared, that big ticket purchases online from Myntra, Jabong, Flipkart are happening from the smaller towns. So for the smaller towns, online is what Dubai and Singapore were for me when I was growing up. So when I was growing up, if I wanted a good pair of sneakers, I had to ask my uncle who flew a lot to bring a pair whenever he went, right? So for them, they don't have the Chromas and the X's and the Y's in their cities, so they're using online as a proxy for that. So they are actually a hell of a lot more active. So they need online banks, they need online payment systems, all of that they seek, and they have leapfrogged. They don't need a physical branch anymore. So if I don't have a branch, that is okay. Of course, I know that the regulation doesn't say so, so we all have to navigate that as well. But having said that, we said that there is this young guy who has money, who wants to do stuff online only, and he's okay with that. I have to create something for him. And one of his biggest problems is not that he doesn't want to commit to a minimum balance, but that he doesn't know whether he can. Because he's just started earning money. He doesn't know how much of his money is going to remain at the end of the month. So this concept of minimum balance is something he's not able to digest. That's our decoding anyway. That's on the back of what we gave birth to this thing called Jiffy. So the social part of it is because of his age group and because of the fact that he lives online and so on. The rest of it all is responding to these banking dimensions of his life. You can't commit minimum balance, no problem. So here's a product where there is no minimum balance required, etc. And then here are these bells and whistles, which are things that hopefully you like and so on and so forth. And on the back of that, we've got the kind of good press we have a fair amount of interest, we're opening accounts, not at the clip that we're opening in the branches honestly, but for an online product today, I think we're not doing shabbily.
Let me try to focus on some of the challenges that I faced while I was working with Axis and trying to set up the whole social media piece. And maybe you guys will benefit from some of the mistakes or some of the learnings that we had when we were trying to set this up. So I think a couple of interesting things, of course, should we or should we not be on social media is always the first question. And I think we've already cracked the answer to that a long time back, that you don't have choice. You're already on social media. Everybody's already on social media, whether you'd like to believe it or not. People are talking about you, discussing you. The question is, are you there to tell your point of view or you're not there? And I think, I don't think this is really a discussion point anymore. Every bank should be out there and should be participating in that conversation yourself, rather than having other people chat about it behind your back and you're just oblivious to what's going on. So I think that's really pretty much a done deal. The second thing was really, what is social media? And when we started looking at various channels, we realized it's obviously beyond Facebook and Twitter. And there are blogs, there's YouTube, there's LinkedIn, there are a whole lot of channels which are available to participate. And what we did was actually put together our heads and said, what should be a strategy? What do we want to do on which channel? You can't do everything everywhere. You want to participate in all the channels, but what should you use for what? And I think the conclusion that we came to was that we'd use Facebook for engagement, for a more one-way sort of a conversation, where we did a lot of engagement and marketing activities where people sort of did brand building really. So Facebook became like a brand building engagement channel. Twitter is where we do two things, or used to rather, I'm not sure what we do now, but used to do two things. One was respond to customer grievances, and the other handle was on offers. Because credit card offers run into like a huge number, and it's very difficult to communicate offers, specific offers through other channels. So through Twitter we could actually focus on offers and share a lot of that. We picked up YouTube to actually share how-to videos and things like that. So you know how a lot of, like Vivek had mentioned as well, a lot of the search that goes on these days is about self-help. How do we help? What is a mutual fund? How do I get a home loan? You know, what is, how do I maintain secure transactions on internet banking or mobile banking? So a lot of queries around that, and we used YouTube channel for that. And similarly for blogs, we picked up a separate strategy. For LinkedIn, we picked up, our strategy was that how do we position the bank to be a great place to work or a good place to work. So figure out your strategy, and you know, what do you want to do on which channel is important as we get started. I think the third thing was really who is going to do this, you know, and do we have people within the bank who are trained enough to do this? And the second question that I was particularly concerned about was that if we start hiring social media specialists within the bank, how are we going to career path them? Like what, they can't be doing this forever. So as they grow, what other jobs will they be able to do? And so should we have people within the bank who are social media experts at all, or should we just outsource this activity? And what we finally had decided to do was to actually use good agencies and outsource this work there, because also staying abreast of the changes that are happening in this field is a bit tricky for a bank, given that we are not necessarily on the leading edge of this particular industry. And it's important to have partners who will always keep you moving forward, who will share ideas, who will keep telling you what's going on in the world, not only within banks, but what's going on in other industries, other sectors, etc., because that's where you get a lot of learning from. So I think from a structuring point of view, it was nice to have one or two people who brought in the strategy behind social media, but the execution, etc., we actually partnered with other agencies who are fairly competent and also keep us enriched and keep us abreast of what's going on in the industry. The last point which I feel was really important was we realized this is not a marketing thing. I think Karthi mentioned that as well. It wasn't a marketing thing. If you're doing customer service department comes in. If you're talking about giving press releases or responding to any media, the media or the corp-com department comes in there. And actually, how do you create an interface or a structure where you can still respond with great sort of response time to a particular negative, positive, whatever news is happening, given that so many people within the bank have to approve it or see it or respond to it. Because how do you integrate multiple departments into building your response mechanism on social media? And I think we finally had a fairly nice working system where we provided interfaces to both Corpcom as well as to customer service, and they actually responded. So there was like, you know, a main interface where the external feed came in, and then it all went to these different teams, and they punched in their responses, and it went back. You know, so a tool, we used an internal tool to actually help channelize and give a like a one bank response, because you don't want customer service to be writing something else on Twitter, and then if somebody calls the call center saying something completely different there. And if somebody comes on sort of, you know, one of the external sites like Mouthshut or something saying something else there. So it has to be the same team which basically responds to all channels, but the channel itself is probably owned by somebody else. So it's like a little complex matrix structure, but I think it can be done. And definitely it forces us to be one bank and to think like one cohesive bank. Social media definitely pushes us to break down our structural silos and actually think as one bank.
I would like to ask Mr. Mishra first and then Karen as to how do existing large organizations adapt to this, you know, how easy or difficult it is, because I'm sure, you know, a lot of the people here would be feeling, you know, how do we do that, you know, how can we actually respond something in a matter of a few seconds and minutes without the right person approving it?
Yeah, I agree with you, that's a difficult job. And initially it is difficult, but once you are on the job and you've been working say for 15 days, 1 month, then you know what to do. But the first time a problem comes before you, then you really, it's basically teamwork which gets you through. So levels of experience, we have the youngsters, we have the middle level executive and the senior person. They all put their brains together. We have certain, templates which are there as to how to, act in certain situations. So all that helps, But ultimately, I agree, that's a difficult job initially. You have to learn on the job. Yeah.
Right. Karen, how did you go about doing this in your bank? Did you have to reorganize teams?
I think fortunately in DBS, within how would I say, the whole communications function and the marketing function, all that, it's fairly integrated, and we actually provide a lot of templates, a lot of training to our colleagues. We also, as a corporate value, are very big on empowerment, because we figure that ultimately we cannot be holding everything with an iron fist, and so we try to empower as much as we can. But on very key issues or key things that are out there in the media, then then we would take a look at it and take on closer to senior management, and for us to look at it a fine-tooth comb. But we are very, I think, fortunate that we don't have to go through multiple levels. And that really is, I think, something that we're very grateful for. But training and I think hiring the right people and making actually every employee realize that whether or not he or she is responding on behalf in the bank's official capacity, or whether he or she is talking in her own personal capacity, if she says something wrong in social media and that person is found out to be working in XYZ bank, the bank is going to get egg on their face anyway. So I think the need for every employee to be responsible is quite critical. So back to, I think, social media guidelines and all that, that all comes into play too.
Right, right. Karthi, in a traditional marketing sense, we would think of media planning, and you would say how much is your spend on TV, on print, and all of that. So how does that entire gamut change in the digital, with the advent of digital, and how do you actually do your marketing strategy in an integrated way? I mean, do you look at it as, silos that, okay, this is what I'm going to do on Facebook and Twitter, and this is what I will still go ahead and do my print advertising, or is there a way to kind of look at it in a comprehensive way?
Sure. So the first caveat, obviously, which I've already alluded to, is that we can't afford to think of social media as a marketing tool alone. So social media has many layers beyond that. It has a sales dimension as well, which is an acquisition thing, which in some organizations sits within marketing, in some organizations sits with the more hard-nosed business people and so on. So there will be money that will get spent, must get spent on social media even for acquisition, and that should be different from marketing, obviously. And then all the other things you do, which is online reputation management or customer service, etc., will also cost money. It won't come for free. That's also money. Net of that, if I just look at the brand dimension and I say that it's linked to the objective. So which tool, which vehicle, which media is going to give me the best efficiency in reaching out to my target audience is the question or the filter through which I will have to pass to understand how to spread my money. So if my customers are all over India in many towns and villages and so on, then things like Doordarshan may still be really relevant. However, if my customers are of a particular psychographic cut, so if they are SECA, if they are younger and cooler, and I am a young bank and I am a challenger brand, so willy-nilly the older people may not even give me time of day. At least with the younger people I may have a chance because I look and sound like them, hopefully. If that's my game, then maybe I can play almost exclusively on social media, therefore YouTube, etc. And we are currently running some experiments to test some of these hypotheses. So for example, today Facebook as well as YouTube are claiming that they are in the top 10 viewed television channels of this country, because a volume of video viewership on Facebook and YouTube are so significant that in terms of reach, sheer reach, they are arguably, they're still not as good as whether it's Star, Z, Colors, whatever the top 10, top 5 GECs, but arguably with some of the other leading channels that many of us spend a hell of a lot of money on because our bosses watch those channels, these two are arguably as powerful as them in terms of reach at least, and we are testing that as a hypothesis right now by putting disproportionate amounts of money on just video on the internet. So actually just literally running my TV ads, which is not the best thing to do, by the way. There are more nuanced and sophisticated things we must be doing on social media with our video work as well. But just as a crude experiment, we're even trying that. So something like for one particular campaign, as much as 30-35% of my money, I'm actually sending to video on the internet to see whether I can get more efficient than television channels.
Rural people shy away from banking because of various forms which we have. For depositing there is a form, for withdrawing there is a form, for everything there is a form, which they find it very difficult to fill up. My question to the panel is, will digital banking help or digitization help in doing away with these various forms and formalities?
Yeah, certainly, you know, for example, if you go, you're talking of the rural scenario, is it?
Yeah.
Well, that will take some time, you know, because the customers there, you know, they are the kind who need to be guided, and many of them are illiterate, and it's a totally different ball game there. But having said that, you know, the mobile penetration in the rural areas is quite good. So maybe over a period of time, you know, once you have an account with a bank, you could do your transactions through that, you know. Of course, coming to the urban scenario and the metro scenario, this branch which we are talking of in Kurla, there, you know, you really don't need any paper, and you go to the bank kiosk, account opening kiosk, you get yourself photographed. You have to, of course, carry your, suppose you don't have a PAN card, the Aadhaar card, so then you have to carry the proof of identity. So there is a photocopier there also. You just place the document there, it gets snapped, and then everything is done digitally, and the authorization, the account opening also gets done immediately, and the branch staff, of course, we have got a skeleton staff, you know, to give you your internet banking kit and your checkbook if you want a checkbook, and of course the debit card also gets printed, which you do yourself. So there is minimum, there's hardly any paper. The only document which you need to carry with you if you don't have your Aadhaar number written somewhere is maybe your PAN card or whatever, you know. So you don't need any documents.
What are you doing with WeChat? So you have a presence in WeChat also.
Yeah, with WeChat, effectively we manage it as we would a Facebook sort of channel. But we run a lot of promotions in there. We actually put out competitions. We also kind of do our usual marketing programs and campaigns in there. And it's quite effective. So as you also know, like for example, Chinese New Year, during the Lunar New Year period, a custom is to sort of give out money in terms of red packets. We call them ang paos. We also try to do that electronically and all that. So it's more sort of an engagement tool than sort of hardcore banking transactions, if you will.
You're mentioning that you could open an account through Facebook. So shouldn't be a condition that the customer should visit a branch or be present in front of an officer? Can it be done online? Does it mean that a customer sitting at States can open an account here?
So a customer sitting in the States, yes, can already open an account purely online, because I have no choice in that matter, right? I'm never going to be able to send an officer to him. In India, the current regulations require a bank officer to visit to verify identity and place of residence. So that leg is still physical, but I suspect that regulation will quickly catch up, because the RBI is as invested as we are in financial inclusion. And if we are going to have to require to put in personnel so that every one of us can send people out to the people who want bank accounts, it's going to be a hell of a long haul. So I am fairly confident that a progressive RBI will actually help us in this, and all of us will be able to do this without personal verification by a bank officer. There are, in fact, that circular I think also says that verification by a third-party agency will be permitted going forward, and there will be more. I think we will get to a point where we will remotely verify this customer through self-attestation using technology. Let me play that out. It sounds like sci-fi, but this customer already has an Android phone. It has a GPS locator. He can stand, take a selfie, and that selfie will have a latitude, longitude stamp. So I know exactly where he is. I can see his photo. He can hold up his PAN card or Aadhaar card in the same photograph. All the verification actually has been done. What else do we need to fear? And I don't think that day is far.
You suggested that because Axis had their agency handle the bit of being social media engagement. But isn't it important for those agencies to actually know your bank very well or your bank products very well? Doing this sometimes, won't you just miss out on the time taken?
With the agencies, like many of them actually sat in-house with us. So what I meant more was that you don't necessarily want social media experts on your roles because it becomes a challenge to career path them in some ways. I mean, at least that was my point of view. I'm sure there can be an alternate way as well. And just like agencies make your advertising, they can only make your advertising if they know your brand. So, I mean, you know, a bank typically depends on so many third parties to deliver its businesses. I think one can definitely build up good partners whom you can trust with responses as well. And I think sometimes the agencies help because they change the language from this very banker language to like normal language which people understand. So in some ways they actually bring in a fresh perspective. So if you give them like a press release, for example, which whenever we would do a press release, we would also put it on social media, but the agencies could always look at that press release and have a little more humane sort of and conversational sort of approach to writing it as opposed to what typically a bank would write. So I think that's really the difference. So I personally always felt that agencies add a lot of value. And you have to build a partnership of trust and mutual respect, and they'll always deliver on you know, what you brief them on.
May I add to that?
Yeah, sure, Karthi.
I just wanted to add to that. I heard the CEO of Pepsi speak recently, and he said that the global benchmark now for a response on Twitter is 15 minutes, on Facebook is 59 minutes. And if we are to prepare for a world where we have to do that, we are going to be immensely challenged if everything that we prepare as a response has to flow through protocols. So we are going to have to empower, whether it's an agency person or an employee, we have no choice but to trust our people much more, because anything that is going to take approvals. For example, when we went 24/7 on our Twitter response cell, I haven't slept in 3 months after that because I was too scared to allow that person to respond directly. So I was saying, send it all to me, I will look at it, only then will you respond. And the day that I overslept, that response took 4 hours. So I wasn't meeting the global benchmark, so to speak. I'm not suggesting that Kotak is always meeting it, but it's an aspiration, because the customer has that experience from whatever else she is doing. She is benchmarking us not to other banks and therefore saying, okay, banking mein chalega. She is benchmarking us to the best in the world in terms of customer service response, and she's expecting that of us. So we are all going to have to measure up. But it's a complicated and cumbersome journey, there is no doubt about it, but there is no escape from starting either.
There was this thing that you spoke about, employee guidelines for social media use. And having said that, it is also important that the senior management of the bank is present on social media. While they are present on social media, who should have the access to their account? As in, will the marketing team run it, will the agency run it, or will they themselves run it? There was a tad bit of crisis that Manisha also spoke about. So how do we go about it?
So I have a personal standpoint on this, that for it to be authentic, any individual in the company, if he or she is tweeting on behalf of the company or whatever, he should be doing it himself or herself. He can get support, he can get advice and guidance and so on if he or she wants it. But if we have an agency pretending to be Uday Kotak, I promise you people will find out within 3 weeks at worst.
So basically, as far as I was mentioning, that we have an internal social media called SBI Aspirations. So there, the chairman or the other top officials, they use their official handles and raise questions or respond to queries or ask for suggestions. But when we are facing the outside world, it is just the bank as a whole which responds. It is not the chairman who responds or I respond, It's a collective wisdom which gets into play, and there are templates, there are guidelines, there are outside agencies which have been selected which support us with their experience, and it's a team effort, as I said earlier. So it's not the, as you said, Uday Kotak who's responding to a tweet or something. It's not like that. It's not at least in our bank.
But if you were to, I think the question is, does it help to have a personal handle of the CEO?
I think it reflects
and if it is there, then who should handle that?
I think it totally depends on the personality of the CEO.
Yeah.
Because if the CEO is not comfortable tweeting, then the CEO should not have a Twitter handle. So a personal Twitter handle should always reflect, and I completely agree with Karthi, it should be self-tweeted, and they should only tweet if they feel comfortable. If they don't, they shouldn't.
No, you see, today, if you see the world in India, you have maybe the Prime Minister or the Finance Minister tweeting, but do they really do it themselves? I don't think so. If somebody in an agency, people, of course, they run it off. Saab, ye dalna hai, theek hai, dal do. So that's the way it works. And we have had recently some tweets, so.
Which is why I think, before evaluating, jumping in, lock, stock and barrel into all this, it's how do you manage it on an ongoing basis. It's very easy to set up a Twitter handle. It's another story to manage it on an ongoing basis. So I think that thought process must be, we must think through it carefully. So for example, in DBS, Piyush is one of a LinkedIn influencer. We're very proud that he's there because it's a very elite group. But we thought through it very, very carefully, and does he have the time and the capacity to actually do it? Yes, he would want to do it himself. Yes, he has people helping him. But ultimately, he is also the face of the bank. And we want to make sure that, we are able to kind of help him to manage that channel. Internally, for our own internal communications, he has a blog, he has a vlog. So on the blog, when he writes it himself, it's signed off as PG. When it's not written by himself, we would sign off as our department. So it's transparent, so people would know whether it's him or it's not him. Yeah.